Well, I think the biggest thing is that we made some improvement from week 1 to week 2. Certainly still some things that we need to improve on, but we made less mental errors in the game. I think we played faster, had really good balance on offense. Passing efficiency was very good. Still made 12 explosive plays. We finished the game in the fourth quarter, played very well in the second half, didn't turn the ball over on offense, and defensively we stopped the run, improved our ability to affect the quarterback. Pass rush was better. They really only scored 7 points on the defense, and we had them 3rd and 9 in that situation. We improved on our mental errors and played really well in the second half. We weren't as good on 3rd down as we have been, and gave up some 3rd and longs that we need to get corrected. And special teams were really good in the game and positive for us in the game, except for the kickoff coverage, especially on the one kickoff return, which we just had a couple loss of lanes and took on the wedge wrong, and the safeties didn't leverage the ball when it came out, so that created a problem for us. But I think we need to learn to get off fast and finish strong. That's what we want to continue to emphasize with our players, so that we can play with a model of consistency over a 60-minute period. The season's an ongoing process. We need to focus on every player getting better, every player improving what he needs to do to become a better player, regardless of what his role is in the game. And that's something we certainly want to put a lot of emphasis on this week. Players of the week for this week is, James Carpenter played very well. Trent Richardson had a very good game, and I think is SEC Freshman of the Week. And Mike McCoy did a very good job substituting in for Julio, had over 100 yards on defense. Rolando, McLean, Hightower, and Cody were the 3 guys, and specialist Javier and Dre Kirkpatrick did a really good job in his role on special teams in both punt and punt return. From an injury standpoint, Roy has a high ankle sprain. He's day-to-day. These things respond at varying rates. I don't know. We're not sure when he'll be able to come back, whether it's a few days or a few weeks, but we're just going to play it day-to-day and see how he responds to treatment. Julio has a bruised knee. He has no other damage or significant damage, and as soon as the trauma settles down, he'll be okay. He'll be day-to-day as well, and there's no way to determine, how long this is going to take, but it shouldn't take more than a few days. Damian Square has a torn ACL, which we sort of suspected after the game, but MRI confirmed that, and he will have surgery tomorrow and will be out for the season. Really too bad. He's got redshirted last year, was a promising freshman, really played well in the game, and we were hopeful that he would give us great depth, but it'll give somebody else an opportunity to go out and play. North Texas, Todd Dodge has done a really good job. This team has really, really improved from last year. Beat Ball State in the opener. Played a rain game against Ohio U and probably had every chance in the game to win it, and came up 1 point short in overtime. But they're a very good offensive team, very productive, lots of balance, can run the ball probably as well as anybody we've played. Their spread, similar to last week, but spread that really emphasizes running it. I don't know, I guess they said Riley Dodge wasn't going to play in the game with a quarterback. I don't know that, but he's a very good athlete and really makes their offense go, and their backup did a nice job when he went out of the game last week, so we feel he's very capable as well. They got a very good running back, Montgomery, and defensively is probably where they made the most significant improvement. They're a lot bigger, a lot more physical, and have played extremely well in their first 2 games. I know Coach Dodge was Greg's coach in high school and was very successful, won 4 state championships in 5 years, and had a couple good quarterbacks there in Greg and Chase Daniels. So, we're not going to ask Greg to help us coach defense this week. We'll just let him go ahead and be the quarterback. But I'm sure he'd be helpful, as smart as he is.
Coach Saban, just a follow-up on Damian and a couple of defensive players. First of all, he was at Jack. Is it just a matter of some other guys Jack and End, I guess? Is it just a matter of some other guys, Luther Davis, Darrington Centimore, would he have a chance to play? Who's kind of next in that role? Also, any indication at all or any idea about whether Jarrell Harris will be back in the immediate future?
I don't really know anything new about Jarrell Harris, and we'll release it as soon as we get, some kind of a final answer on that. But Damian Square was a defensive end who we moved to Jack to try to give us a bigger, more physical guy. But really his role was to play defensive end in nickel and dime situations. Talbert and Centimore will probably be the two guys that we bring up. Marcel Darius can also play that position if we want to move him over. It's really Lorenzo Washington's backup. So with Dedrick coming back, we could move guys around. We don't have a plan to do that right now. Marcel does well when he stays in one spot, and he was productive in the last game, so we don't want to keep moving him around, which through this whole preseason and first couple of weeks we moved him around to sort of take up the slack wherever we needed it, and we'd like to leave him in the same spot and let him continue to progress.
Coach, two questions. You touched on Saturday night about the lack of intensity and excitement in the first half. Will you approach practice in any different manner or anything else change this week so that doesn't happen against North Texas?
Well, I think that we practiced well last week. I mean, we really had a pretty good week of practice, but I think the emphasis to the players is that, in everything that we do, you have to have a mindset that you're ready to go, and that includes practice. And it's, just like I tell the players, a guy comes in and says, you missed class, you can't miss this class. The guy says, I really hate this class, it's really boring. And I said, well, it's an opportunity for you to learn how to focus on something that you don't really want to do or feel like doing at that time. And I think sometimes practice has to be the same way, so that you create a mindset that when you start, you're ready to start, and you have the intensity, the mental energy, and that's just who you are, and how you do things. And we practiced well last week. I thought we had good energy on Friday, even in walkthrough, didn't make a lot of mistakes, and just seemed like we were a little bit slow getting started in the game. And maybe if the momentum of the game would have been different, we had them 3rd and 21 backed up and give up a big play and get good field position, and maybe if we score a touchdown rather than kicking a field goal, that things might go differently. But I think we have to finish, those situations in the game, and players have to be ready to take advantage of those opportunities. And I want this to be a part of who we are, that we develop a consistency in performance from start to finish, and that's something that we need to work on, and we'll emphasize it in practice so that they understand that's important.
I know you said you're going to let Greg be the quarterback, but has he been able to tell you anything about Todd Dodge, tendencies, et cetera, to help you on Saturday?
Well, we haven't asked him yet. We're still trying to figure it out on our own. But, the way I'd like to do it is see if I can figure it out, then ask him if I'm right or wrong. But that's not how it's supposed to be between the player and the coach, but it's the way we do it.
Coach Saban, you've talked often about Terry Grant's positive effect on his teammates, his attitude, and finding him a role. And then Saturday night, he had the huge run, played very well. I'm just curious from a coaching standpoint, how gratifying was that for you to see him have success?
Well, we want Terry to have success because he has certainly given his all to the team. There's a sign downstairs that says, out of yourself and into the team. And for a guy who was a star player a couple years ago and has had a minimized role for the last year and a couple games, started out due to injury, he has been as positive force with his teammates, and also in terms of his own attitude of what he tried to do to help the team, himself individually as well as collectively, in helping other people. So, we keep trying to develop him a role at receiver, which we worked on last week at receiver. Mark was sick all week, so Mark didn't practice much, so we had to keep putting him back and running back. Now Roy's got an ankle, and he's probably going to be out most of practice this week, and maybe even beyond that. So it gets more and more difficult to try to make the transition for Terry to get the reps in practice so he can increase his role, as a guy we could use as a receiver. But it's nice to have a guy that has enough sort of experience, knowledge, resource of information to be able to do a little bit of both and still be effective. And he was really effective for us in the game, and probably could have played a little more late in the game and probably would have been even more effective. But we wanted to use it as an opportunity to give some other players an opportunity to play as well.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned a situation where you got a field goal instead of a touchdown. I think y'all have kicked about 4 field goals when you've gotten to the red zone this year. How much of that early is a concern to you and something you want to straighten
Well,
out?
I think red zone efficiency is important on both sides of the ball. I think you always want to score down there, which is important. And I think most of these field goal situations have happened early in the game. And that's something that we want to finish, early in the game that can set the tone for the game. And obviously the multiples of the score can be more beneficial to you. But a big emphasis for us is red zone efficiency on both sides of the ball. We wanted to improve from a defensive standpoint, and as well as offensively in terms of our ability to score touchdowns. We have goals for what we want to accomplish, and we want to continue to improve in that area. It's not a concern, it's just something that we want to improve on, especially early in the game offensively. Defensively, we've had opportunities to get them stopped down there, and in one game we got a penalty which kind of gave them an opportunity to score, and we had them 3rd and 9 this week and didn't play the coverage right, and they should have had to kick a field goal in that circumstance. So just got to keep working on improving, doing little things right, paying attention to detail.
Coach, could you just comment a little bit more on Mike McCoy's performance on Saturday and your level of comfort being able to substitute there with an experienced senior as opposed to substituting with a guy with no experience?
Well, we view Mike as a starter on our team. He's played a lot. I think our receivers have all improved, to some degree. So we feel like we have more guys now that can play winning football for us. And Mike certainly, showed in this game when he got an opportunity that he could take advantage of it, and he's ready to be a winning performer for us at that position. And I think this game probably did a lot for his confidence, and certainly will help us in the future if he can continue to be a productive player. And we were very, very pleased with his performance in the game.
You'll often hear coaches say they won't sign a junior college player unless they're pretty sure they could help them right away. Is that kind of your philosophy when recruiting junior college players, and what did you see from James Carpenter that allowed you to give him the responsibility he's had this year?
Well, I think what I usually say when we're recruiting a junior college guy is they only have 2 years to play. Maybe sometimes they have 3, sometimes they have 3 to play 2. Just depends on the guy. But it's best for them if you have a role for them that they can fit into. Now, of course, it's their responsibility to be able to execute to the level that you need them to take advantage of the opportunity that they have. But I think it works better for them when they have a role and they can come in and play, because they only have 2 years. They don't have time to develop. In James Carpenter's case, we anticipated that Smitty would go out for the draft, and that we felt like it would help us, even though we had some good young players developing, if we had a little older, more mature guy who could play left tackle for us. And James has worked very hard, and Joe Pendry's done a very good job of helping him develop, and he's played well for us in the first 2 games. And so it worked well for us, but it also worked well for him that he had an opportunity, and he's been able to develop and take advantage of it.
Also, the offense has neared 500 yards first 2 games. and that's really without Julio playing much of a role. Have you been pleased with how the other receivers have stepped up and how the offense has kept going even without him?
Well, I have been pleased with the balance that we've been able to have offensively. We haven't turned the ball over much. We've been able to have decent run efficiency, as well as our passing efficiency is very much improved. And I think it's improved because we've kind of improved in all the areas. Greg has done a nice job, but receivers are playing a little better. We've had decent protection for the most part, and tight ends are doing a nice job. So I feel like we've improved overall from that standpoint. So I think there's areas that we can continue to improve on, and certainly we're going to, focus on the things that we need to do to get better, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to be even more efficient in the future.
Coach, can you describe the work ethic of Marcel Darius in his last 2 weeks as he started both games?
Well, Marcel's always been a hard worker. I think and he plays with a lot of effort and intensity in the game. I think he's getting more confident in assignments and knowledge of what's expected of him at his position, and I think it's starting to show dividends in terms of his production as a player. But he's a good pass rusher, but he's also physical and can play the run. He can run and finish on the quarterback, and gets to the ball and plays with a lot of intensity and a lot of effort. So as long as we can keep channeling those things in the right direction so that he is playing his responsibility, I think you'll continue to see production from him.
Can you talk about the kickoff coverage a little bit more, that you gave up one against Virginia Tech? Have you ever been part of a team that gave them up in back-to-back games? And what did you work on last week, and how will that change this week?
Well, without being specific to details, all the returns that we've given up have come back to one side, and we're over squeezing the field, not staying in our lanes, and I don't think it's a personnel issue as much as it is a responsibility and discipline issue of recognizing where everybody's supposed to fit. I don't recall being a part of giving up very many kickoff returns for touchdowns, let alone back-to-back in games. But I also feel that we have safeties on these plays that if they were in position, we may give up 40 or 50-yard returns, but we wouldn't give up touchdowns. And I think that's something that we need to continue to work on as well, that everybody has a role on every play, and everybody's got to do that. And the kickoff coverage at times has been really good, but we've had some serious breakdowns that have contributed to 2 touchdowns now, and also other circumstances where we've given up pretty positive field position to the other team. And I think that's something that is very, very critical, that in kickoff and kickoff return, that we make an improvement so that we are getting better drive starts, and we're giving the other team poor drive starts. And even when you start doing the alternative kicks like we did last week, pooching the ball, squibbing the ball and all that, that's feast or famine sometimes, If the ball bounces to them right, they still get it on the 35-yard line. So, and then we kicked one out of bounds, so that gave it to them on 40. So this is an area that we need to improve on. I think we have good enough players to do it, and I just think that our consistency, decision-making, running down the field, how you dodge a block, where you fit on the wedge, all those things we have to improve on. And we worked hard on it last week. We even improved the scout team and put quality players on the scout team so that we could get a better picture in how we went about it. And it was disappointing to me that we didn't make more progress in that area.
Well, the Suicide Squad is a proving ground for players. They want to impress and get more playing time elsewhere. Are they being too eager and just undisciplined?
Well, in some cases, we have guys that we have one guy in particular who is a demon running down the field. I'm not going to mention any names because I certainly don't want to be critical of the player. But I think sometimes his over-aggressiveness puts him in the wrong position relative to the rest of the players. So that's something that we got to continue to work on with him.
Coach, you talked about Upchurch. How do you feel based on the way Trent has come in and based on the way Terry has practiced and played? How do you feel about the depth in your backfield, even if you are without Roy or down the road somebody else?
Well, Marcus probably played as well as anybody on a consistent basis, and we were very pleased with his performance, having 3 days of illness prior to the game to be able to come back and play in the game. He actually played in the game more than we anticipated that he might when Roy got hurt early on. Trent certainly stepped up and did a fantastic job, but we have been really confident that Trent would be a contributor at this position at some point in time in the season whenever the opportunity presented itself. He's practiced well. He's really a fine young man and works hard and has a good understanding of what he's supposed to do. Terry is very capable, and Roy is very capable. So, if you have 3 backs that can play at all times, I think you're fortunate, should feel fortunate. So, we feel like we have 4, and, Demetrius Good didn't do a bad job when he was in there, and I feel like if he had to be the 3rd back in the game, that we would be okay with that as well. So hopeful that we can keep these guys healthy. I think that's going to be important because that is one of the strengths of our team, is the collective group of running backs that we have. All right, thank you.